Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita discussion tonight. So, how did everybody enjoy the service in the temple? Huh? It was great.
Very good opportunity to serve in the temple.
You enjoyed? How often we get to say it's great to clean and wash. It's different when we are doing in Krishna's home. Very glad we all had a chance, and we'll continue next month and each month thereafter. Okay, so we're discussing today the 48th verse. So what did we discuss last week? What did we discuss?
You have the right to perform your duties, so don't expect it.
There's a but, right? We can perform our duties, but
Don't expect it. So don't attach to the fruits.
don't attach to the fruits. Right? So we discussed last time who gets to decide whether we'll attach to the fruits or not. We decide, right? So when we make any decision, how do we decide which to go, option A or option B? How do we make the decision? Based on what criteria? Which is what? Which is best for us, right? So I look at the advantages of option A, and then I look at the advantages of option B, and then I decide. Right? So that is how we make decisions. So Krishna is telling here that Arjuna, you have a right to do your duty, But whatever comes from that duty, what should he do with those results? What should he do with the results coming from his duty? Huh? Don't expect. But when they come, what should we do with them? Give it to Krishna. Right? So immediately the question we ask then is, wait a minute, I'm doing all the work. When some result comes, why I should give it to Krishna? Why I should not enjoy it myself, right? That is a natural question. So we then discuss, well, okay, so what happens when we remain attached to the fruits? What is the result when we are attached to the fruits? To the result. What happens? Okay, we'll accumulate the karma, and then?
Get frustration, we get anger.
We get frustration.
Stress.
Rebirth again. And more of the same. Okay, so that's option A. Option B is we detach from the fruits. What happens when we detach from the fruits? Okay, no karma. And then what?
No.
And then what? No stress, no frustration. Then what?
Peace of mind.
We get eternal life of peace and happiness. Bliss. Free of all stress, fear, anxiety. So one comes with full, all the tribulations of the material world. And the other comes with freedom from all of that. So what is the obvious choice? What should we do with the fruits? Detach. So all ready to detach from the fruits? It's not so easy, right? It's not so easy. And what leads us to want to hold on to the fruits? Why do we think these are my fruits?
But we worked on that. We think we worked on that.
We think we worked on it. But Krishna tells us in the 3rd chapter, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. He says that we think we are the doer of all these activities. But actually, what are we truly the doer of? He says ahankara, this false ego. False ego is a very important term for us to understand. So false implies then there's also a true ego, right? If I say false ego, it means then also true ego. So we know in the world, like if we say, oh, this person has an ego, right? We say that. Is that a compliment or is that a derogatory term? Is it a compliment? No. And we mean that this person has ego, it means they think they're something that they're not, right? They have an inflated sense of who they are, right? That's what we mean when we say somebody has an ego. They have an inflated sense of who they are. So that is actually what false ego means. So then what is true ego? The word ego actually means the sense of I am. So a clear sense of who I am is the real ego. So who am I? I am spirit soul. When we ask this question, who am I? We don't pull out our identification and say, I am so and so, I am born in this date, I have this address, this color eyes, this height, all the things on our driver's license. Right? Because we know that identification, whatever it says on my driver's license, will that be exactly what it'll say 100 years from now? And what did my driver's license say 100 years ago? We don't know. Something different. So whatever I'm identifying with this body, I know it is temporary. It's different from what it was in the past, and it's different from what it will be in the future. Hence, it is temporary. So my identity must be something beyond then this body. Because this is just a temporary destination. So we know we are not this body, but we are spirit soul. The soul that resides within the body. Right? So that soul, it comes to this world. And when we enter this world, what do we come with? Do we bring anything into this world? And when we leave this world, what do we take with us? Nothing. So we start with nothing and we end with nothing. But in between we say, this is mine, this is mine. How it can be mine? Just like if you came into this house empty-handed, can I say this lamp is mine? I'm holding on to it. It's mine? Can I say it's mine? No. Because it was here when I came. It's not mine. I may be given the opportunity to hold on to it, but it doesn't make it mine. And when I leave, do I leave with the lamp? I'll not be invited back next week. Right? Is that mine? So all the resources, everything that we take possession of during this lifetime, is it truly ours? We're just borrowing it. We're just borrowing it. From who? Each other, okay. But where are we all getting it from?
Krishna, he's the creator of that.
I go to the store and I find some product on a shelf. Where did the store get it from? The manufacturer. Where did the manufacturer get it from?
Natural resources.
Some natural resources that it assembled into the factory. Where did it get the natural resources from? From the earth. Where did the earth get it from? The creator. The creator. Anything that we have created doesn't come originally from the creator. So whatever we are creating, we are secondary creators. We are just using somebody else's resources to manufacture. So we should acknowledge and understand that whatever I create, I am creating only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. I may have all the intelligence in the world. I may have all the wealth, all the strength, great fortitude, resources. But if I don't have oxygen to breathe, do I have anything? I have nothing. I have nothing. If I don't have sunlight to grow some foodstuffs, to fuel the belly and the body, to do all the activities that I'm taking ownership of, do I have anything if that is not there? So when Krishna says to surrender the fruits of your labor, we should understand all of our labor is also being done ultimately by the sanction of the Supreme Lord. And so for that reason, we are not its true rightful owner. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, it is best for you to renounce the fruits of the work, because from that you'll find detachment, you'll attach to the Supreme Lord, and you'll find this peace and happiness you are searching for. But if you remain attached to the fruits, you have to take all the consequences that come with it. You cannot separate them. Take the good and leave the bad back. It comes as a package deal. So, we have to decide. But knowing our position as spirit soul and this tiny, fully dependent soul on the Supreme, it makes our sense of ownership, our pride, it reduces. When we recognize that without the Lord's mercy, what is it we can actually do? Anything? We cannot even take one step in this world. Let us forget that. I cannot even move my hand like this. Think about this. Just to move my hand like this, what has to happen? I have to desire it. Then some neurons in the brain have to fire, send a message to the muscles to move the hand. Any of that you or I can control? Can't control any of that. It's happening by some mechanism, some machinery that when it goes wrong, we cannot even fix. So this is the amount of dependence we have. But the beauty is that when we fully depend on our Supreme Lord, the Father, our Father, in love, are we ever short of anything? We say, I give all the fruits to Krishna. What is our immediate concern? What's left for me? How I will survive? Right? In the home, the child renders and gives everything they have to mother and father. If they give everything they have to mother and father in the home, are they left without food? Are they left without shelter? Do they actually lose anything? In fact, they gain more. Right? If the child in the home is being selfish and taking like that, there's some battle, some conflict. Still, mother and father will give, but not as much as when the child is fully surrendered to mother and father. Right? So in the same way, when we are fully surrendered to Krishna, surrendering all the fruits of our labor, our fear is there. Oh, Krishna, where my chapatis will come from tomorrow? But we should have faith. Krishna will provide everything. Now, detaching from the fruits takes a practical application, which we talked about a little bit last week. So let's see now this importance of detaching the fruit. Krishna continues this topic in the 48th verse. So let's read the 48th verse and discuss. So what does Krishna say?
Perform your duty by O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga.
Okay.
Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of the Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna Consciousness. By Krishna Consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of the Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna Consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such he is practicing in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the role in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him.
Okay. So, Krishna is saying, perform your duty equipoise, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Right? So, yoga, right? This is a very popular term. So, when we think of yoga, what do we typically think of?
Exercise.
Some breathing exercises, some pranayam, some twisting the body into a jalebi, that type of yoga, right? That's the thing, standing on our head. But that actually, yoga is a very small, tiny part of yoga. It is actually part of yoga. But yoga in its full means what? So Prabhupada describes in the beginning of Prabhupada, what is the meaning of yoga?
Controlling senses
Controlling the senses, yep. And?
and realization of the Supreme Soul.
And realization of the Supreme. Because there is yoga that says, I'll just control my senses, I'll withdraw. It's called pratyahara in the Ashtanga yoga process, where one withdraws all the senses. But that is not actually yoga. Yoga comes from the root word yu, which means to connect. So yoga means to link with the Supreme. The process of connecting to the Supreme. That is yoga. So, Krishna is telling Arjuna that he should do his prescribed duty, but do it as yoga. So what that means? Do your duty in a way that brings you closer to Krishna, that connects you with the Supreme Lord. Because this is the only means for Arjuna to find happiness and peace. Arjuna thinks that if he runs away from the battlefield and does not fight this war, he'll be happy. He won't have to deal with the consequences of fighting the war. So that is basically escaping his duty. But Krishna is telling him, no. Just not doing your duty is not going to make you happy. Sometimes I think, if I don't have to go to work tomorrow or Monday, life would be perfect. But don't worry. As soon as you stop going to work, some other trouble will come. We'll start arguing with our spouse because we're both in the same roof. We'll start finding projects in the house to do, and this problem, that problem, the car doesn't work, my, bodily issues, stomach hurts, this, that. Something or the other will come. So abandoning your duty is not going to work. But doing your duty as yoga will work. And how do we do our duty as yoga? What does that mean? What does it mean to do our duty? It means we go to the office and start doing some exercises and pranayams. Then we'll get the pink slip and say, go home. So
concentrate the mind on work.
on the
Supreme Lord.
Okay. But if I concentrate the mind on the Supreme Lord, then my work will falter also. Right? So how do I do my duty as yoga?
Doing our day-to-day job with thinking that we are serving Krishna and then to remember him whatever we are doing. It's a service of Krishna. This is the way we need to learn.
So doing our duty in a way that pleases Krishna. So what is the primary reason why Arjuna should fight this war?
Krishna asked
It's his duty. That's one reason. You said? Krishna asked him. So what's the primary reason why Arjuna should fight this war? It's his duty, or because Krishna asked him to?
Krishna asked him.
Krishna is the supreme, absolute truth. If it was not Arjuna, if Arjuna was not a Kshatriya, should he still fight the war?
Yeah.
Why?
Because Krishna
Because Krishna asked him to. When Krishna tells us we have faith, it is best. Right? Does father ever give instruction to child that is not good for the child? But does child always like the instruction given by father? No. Right? He has to realize. And typically, when does child realize the instructions of father?
If
When he experiences, when he understands, when he matures, then the child realizes, oh, Father was actually giving me good advice. Right? So when Krishna tells us, surrender the fruits of the labor, do your duty, in our immature state, we have some apprehension. I think, that doesn't work. That sounds, wow, Krishna gets to enjoy and I get to struggle here. That is our immature consciousness. But with knowledge, we'll come to see, actually, Krishna would never tell us to do anything that is not best for us, that is most helpful to us. That is the only goal Krishna has. Krishna is speaking in this Bhagavad Gita. He has only one goal in speaking to Arjuna. And what is that single goal he has?
Children should come back.
No, what's his goal in speaking to Arjuna?
To give a message to us.
Okay, so he's speaking to Arjuna to speak to all of us. But what is his goal of, what does he want to see happen to Arjuna in his speaking?
Don't escape from his duty.
What was Arjuna's condition of mind in the beginning of this Bhagavad Gita? Confused. What else? He was confused.
Emotion.
He was emotional. Any other? Delusion. Fearful?
Unnecessary.
Fear. Stress. He was shaking and quivering. He sat down, dropped his Gandiva bow. So he was in a state of distress. So now his dear friend is speaking to him. So what is Krishna's goal to Arjuna? What does he want to do?
His duty.
He doesn't want to do his duty. He wants to give him happiness. He wants to free him of all of his confusion, delusion, stress, anxiety, fear. He wants to pacify. When a friend comes to us in need, what do? What? We help. We help. So Arjuna has gone to Krishna in need. So everything Krishna is speaking to Arjuna in his Bhagavad Gita, who benefits from that instruction?
Everyone. We also do.
Huh? Whoever listens. Yeah. Arjuna is the beneficiary, not Krishna. When it says, do your duty and surrender the fruits to me, when Krishna says that, we think, who benefits in that transaction?
We benefits.
No, we don't think that. That's why we don't do it. What do we think? Who benefits? And who loses? But that's the exact opposite.
Before hearing you, it was...
Yeah. That's why we have to hear from Parampara. Because we'll be confused like such. But again, when Krishna tells Arjuna, surrender the fruits, we should understand, that must be best for me. Because Krishna has nothing to gain from our fruits. Whatever results we can create, what does he need from us? He needs more chapatis? He needs more few dollars? He is source of everything. What does he need from us? He needs one thing from us. He wants one thing from us. What does he want?
Love.
Our love. Our love. That is what he is thirsty for. He doesn't need the actual fruits we are giving. He needs the love that goes into those fruits. Just like when child makes something in a home for the father or mother. Do mother and father need whatever the child made? No. So does mother and father say, I don't need this, take it away? No. They cherish it. They appreciate it. They adore it. They glorify it far beyond what it actually is. That's what Krishna does. Whatever we give to him with love, no matter how insignificant it may seem, Krishna sees it as the most significant and the most glorious because it was given with love. And this is the sweet relationship between us and Krishna. So here, Krishna is freeing us from some very important conscious perspective. When we do our duty, when we do some activity, forget about duty, when we do some activity, what gives us stress and anxiety?
The end results, whether it's success or not, expectations.
Whether it's success or not. Whether it meets my expectations. How much stress and anxiety do we have in our day-to-day life because of this single attachment to the result?
More than 100%.
More than 100%, intelligently said. All of our stress and anxiety is centered on this attachment to the result. Whether it will be successful or whether it will be a failure. So Krishna is saying, you remain equanimity. What does equanimity mean?
Don't feel for as a success or failure. Equally take up.
You do your duty, but you leave the results to Krishna. Equanimity does not mean, okay, I don't care about the results, so then I don't do the duty, I become lazy. No. Detaching from the fruits, as we discussed last time, is not a license to become lazy. No, we should do the best of our duty. But whether it works or doesn't work, we have no stress. Because whose concern is that? Whether it works or not. Krishna's. Child does some work in the house. Whether it's successful or not, are they concerned whether rice, dal, sabji will come in the evening for dinner? Huh? No. They just do the duty, whatever mother, father asked. They don't have anxiety. Right? So why do we have anxiety? Because we think we are the doer of these activities. Instead, like we did in our childhood, we just depend on our Supreme Father. Even depending on our own mother and father, they are limited, right? What is the capacity of our own mother and father to care for us? Is it absolute? It's limited. But what is the capacity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? 100%. It's absolute. It's absolute. So with this knowledge, then one can surrender the fruits of their labor with great faith and confidence. Great enthusiasm. Not, fine, here they are, and regretfully. Because otherwise don't do it. It's our decision. To keep the fruits or renounce. Whose choice is it? Ours. We get to choose. Krishna will never force us. He'll never force us. But with knowledge, understanding my relationship with the Supreme Lord, being fully dependent on Him, the choice is very simple and very clear. And so when I depend on the Supreme Lord, then I become truly free of all stress and fear and anxiety. And we see it. The mental health of the world is in a rapid decline. And you can measure it by so many different ways. You can measure it from a medical perspective. You can measure it from a criminal perspective, the amount of crime. You can measure it from surveys. But by any measure, mental health is declining. But we've had so much advancement in technology and medicines and communications and travel and all these things to make our life. So why is there more stress, fear, and anxiety? Attachment. Attachment to?
Results.
Are more people detached today or attached to the fruits of their work?
Attached.
So what do we see? More stress, fear, and anxiety. It's a direct formula. It's a direct one-to-one relationship. When we learn to depend on our supreme loving Father, then we'll find peace and happiness. So in depending on our loving Father, does that mean then, okay, I don't have to go to the office on Monday? If Krishna wants me to eat, he'll send groceries on the front door through Amazon? Is that what it means?
No. We have to do our task.
So what is our responsibility? What is our responsibility in that formula?
We have to do our part
We have to do our part. And how do we do our part?
with Krishna consciousness.
With Krishna consciousness. We do it half-heartedly.
No, full-hearted.
We do our duty 100%. But whether it's successful or not, whose concern should that be?
Krishna's concern.
Now what is my stress?
Zero.
I will give my full effort.
And I know, if Krishna doesn't give me, why he didn't give me?
There must be some reason.
And why?
May be harmful to me.
It's good for me. I think I want it. Child says, Mother, Father, give me ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're convinced it's good for them. But does mother and father give? Me too. Me too. I like ice cream also. So why doesn't mother and father give ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? It's not good for us. So trust me, renouncing the fruits of your labor doesn't mean Krishna will become your order taker. We go to the temple, we put some money in the hundi, and then we give the long list of all the things I want. So for me, I'll take X, Y, Z. For my wife, I'll take this. For my father, I'll take this. Next week, I'll come back with the rest of the list. And the next week will come. Krishna. We don't have to give our list to even Krishna. He's sitting in our heart as Paramatma. He knows what is best for us. So a devotee, they do their duty. And no anxiety. If difficulties come, even a calamity comes, they know, okay, Krishna must have some plan. Krishna must have some purpose, some goal for this calamity even. And they have faith in the loving relationship with the Lord. So this is the opportunity we have to perform in yoga. Right? So, Prabhupada writes, how we will give up this sense of proprietorship, that this is mine, this is all mine, I am doing. What is the only way to give up this sense of proprietorship?
Learn to the yogic way so that we can control our mind.
When Krishna is the cause of it.
We have to know, who am I and who is the supreme in that relationship. Krishna consciousness is the only way we'll detach. The mental yogi will try to detach from everything. But after some time, what happens? What happens? Come right back. Because from that detachment, there is no happiness, no enjoyment. So it doesn't last. So this Krishna consciousness, by doing devotional service, one can truly eradicate this sense of proprietorship and thus detach and practice this yoga in a full stress-free way. So now let's come to the practical terms. So does this mean I should detach? So when I go to the office, the paycheck comes, I should just tear it up and put it in a waste bin? Is that detaching from the fruits? That's foolishness. What does detaching from the fruits mean in practice? What does it mean in practice? What should I do? What changes do I make starting tomorrow to surrender the fruits to Krishna? I'm not going to take the fruit basket in my house and then give it. No, I have to take all these results. How do I do it?
We have to do the task in the Krishna consciousness. And
What does that mean?
Realizing ourselves,
Huh?
the money comes from Krishna.
Okay. So I realize it comes from Krishna, and then I go and enjoy in the movie theater.
What it is defined, you have to work.
Offer to Krishna. So I go to the temple, take the paycheck and put it in a hundi. So I don't put it in a waste bin, I put it in a hundi.
You have to follow Shastra.
But what? I want practical. That's all generic.
Okay.
What does it mean? What does renouncing the fruits mean? How can I apply this starting now? Practically.
Whatever we earn, it's not earning, that whatever we have, we get a time, we follow the consciousness and tell others what is good for. So that's how we take our time helping bhakti and telling others what we are getting from. That is all.
Okay, so sharing our time and resources. Okay, that's one way. What else?
Whatever it is, whatever we are receiving, that is, we feel like a prasad from the Krishna, and we are here. Just if we are doing the job, Krishna has given me a job to help the family to have a day-to-day activities, and I have to tell the same to children also.
Okay, but it's not just about feeling that this is prasad from Krishna. I have to do something. What do I have to do?
I have to do service.
Okay, but how do I offer everything to Krishna?
Service.
How? What does service mean? I want to know what I do tomorrow.
Do your duties.
Okay, I'm going to do my duties. I'm going to go to the office. I'm going to get the paycheck. I get it. Now what do I do? What do I do? Do I renounce my house to Krishna and I live in the forest? Huh?
Make Krishna as the center, head of the house, and we are doing as a servants.
So we make Krishna the center. That doesn't mean we pull out a floor plan, find the exact center, and we put Krishna in the center.
No, every
That means
should go.
it's not that I walk into the house and yes, Krishna, you're the center of the house, and then I never think of him ever again until the next day. That is not making Krishna there. So it is not just thinking, but it is in our actual consciousness and activities. That we understand that this house is Krishna's house. Because he has given whatever means I have done to acquire it. Who has given me the ability? It's Krishna. So what does it mean it's Krishna's house? So when I cook foodstuffs in the house, whose food is it?
Krishna's food.
So we should offer it first to
Krishna.
Krishna. That means I am surrendering the fruits to Krishna. I have family. I'm raising my family. Ultimately, whose children are they?
Krishna's children.
So what is my duty?
So then,
How? How am I going to serve them?
to make them a conscious what we gain from Krishna, then make them a conscious also.
Connecting them to their Supreme Father. That is my responsibility. In Shastra it says, one should not become a mother or father unless they can connect that child to the Supreme Lord. That is a Shastric injunction. So we should understand that our duty, yes, we have to educate our children, we have to do different activities, But what is the purpose of that education? So they can eat, sleep, mate, and defend nicely? So that they can also grow up to become nice devotees of Krishna? Because that, if they grow up attached to the fruits, what is going to be the result for them? Happiness?
Anxiety and fear.
All the things that we are trying to get away from. So why we would bestow that upon our children? We ourselves are learning that this attachment to the fruits is not going to work. It's attachment to Krishna's that's going to work. So, we should raise our family understanding that we have a responsibility to bring them also to Krishna. I have facilities, whatever facilities I have, use them in the service of Krishna. So we have to bring Krishna into the center of our consciousness. When I answer the question, why am I doing this activity? That is the key. What is the why for everything I do? If Krishna is the why, then it's good. So I cannot go to the movie and say, I'm going to the movies for Krishna. No, that doesn't work that way. Okay? So we have to understand I'm doing these activities in the service of the Lord. If we can honestly answer that way, then we have surrendered the fruits. So this is the practical way in which we surrender the fruits of our labor. And it's called Yukta Vairagya. Anashakta Vishayam Yatharam Upajayante Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagya Uchyate. This real renunciation is that we use whatever facilities we have in the service of the Supreme Lord. And I don't use them for my own sense enjoyment. That is renunciation. That's real renunciation. False renunciation is to walk away from the results and do nothing. Those are Krishna's results. We should use them. And use them for... Okay? So this is this equanimity, this peaceful, no stress of success or failure. So, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki. What questions, discussion can we have? Yeah.
Ever disturbing senses.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Purport. By controlling the ever disturbing senses.
Yes. So what's the question?
What is that ever disturbing sense?
Ever disturbing senses. So, Krishna is going to compare the senses in a few verses to like venomous serpents. Are the senses easy to control?
No.
When we see something, even something we should not see, is it easy to stop seeing that? It's like a magnet. It just draws. Right? When we taste something that we should not taste, is it easy to control that tongue to stop? So the senses are constantly creating desires in the mind. And those mind disturb the intelligence. Because the intelligence says no, and the mind keeps saying do, do, do. And we all done it, right? We all have performed an activity that we know we should not have done. Our intelligence is telling us no, but we still do it. Why? Because of the senses and the mind are so strong. And they create this disturbance. So the senses and the mind, when they are attached to the material world, they'll always be the cause of disturbance. But the same senses and the same mind, when they are attached to Krishna, they become the source of our great peace. So Krishna says in the 6th chapter, beginning of the 6th chapter, the uncontrolled mind is your greatest enemy. And the controlled mind is your greatest friend. And we've seen how many bad things have happened due to an uncontrolled mind. All these crazy crimes and things, and even decisions we have made. If we think back to the bad decisions we have made in our life, what was the state of our mind at that time? It was disturbed. Right? So the senses will be in a constant disturbed state until they come to Krishna consciousness. And it's because our whole existence separated from Krishna is in a disturbed state. Just like a fish. When I pull a fish out of the water, what is its state of mind? It's happy. I can give it all kinds of jewels and luxurious foods and wonderful music to hear. It'll be happy? Why? It's not in its natural environment. Our natural environment is to be connected with the Supreme Lord. When we are separated from Him, we'll be like that fish out of water. No matter what we do to try to control that fish, it'll be disturbed. We can try to control the senses by some material means. It won't work. The only means to satisfy the senses is to bring them to Krishna. Just like the only means to satisfy that fish is to bring it back into the water. But that's ever control, disturbing senses. And we must control the senses. Krishna is going to speak starting from the 54th verse to the whole end of the chapter, talking about this single topic, controlling the senses. So it's not so easy. Okay? Yes?
Continuing this question, what is the connection with the soul and the senses? How would it react to all the senses? Happy, unhappy?
Yeah, we'll talk about this starting in the 54th verse. But you all have seen this picture. So this is picture number 9. So this picture illustrates the connection. So in this there are horses that are tied together with some ropes that are being held by a driver who is seated on a chariot with a passenger in the chariot. Okay? So the passenger in the chariot is the soul. The driver of that chariot is the intelligence. The reins, the ropes tying the horses together, that is the mind. And the horses, they are the senses. How many horses are there in this picture? 5. So how does this work? So we know for a chariot, if it's driving on a road, and on either side there's a ditch, what is the driver's job? Keep it on the road. So if the horses are running wild, untied by the ropes, will the chariot move? The horses need to be tied together tightly. What are the ropes that are tying the horses together? That is the mind controlling the senses. But if the ropes are there, but the driver lets go of the ropes, what happens to the chariot? Ends up in the ditch eventually. When the driver, remember, is the intelligence. When the intelligence is overcome by the mind, what happens to the soul? It gets dragged into the ditch. Because the senses and mind are strong, but the intelligence must be stronger. But if the driver is very firmly holding the ropes, and the ropes are nicely tied to the horses, then what happens to the chariot? It moves very nicely. So when we say controlling the senses, it doesn't mean stopping the senses. No more seeing, no more hearing, no more tasting, no more smelling. No. It means using the senses in a way that's good for the soul. Right? The horses are being used in a way that is good for the passenger. Who's the passenger again? The soul. Right? So Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that we stop the senses. We enjoy our senses fully. But we enjoy them under the guidance of the intelligence. The intelligence must know how to use the senses. And the intelligence knows that the senses used in Krishna consciousness to see the beautiful forms of the Lord, to taste the wonderful foods offered to the Lord, to smell the flowers that have been offered to the Lord, to hear the glories of the Lord. These are the good uses of the senses. As Ambarish Maharaj and many other great personalities show us in Srimad Bhagavatam. But if the senses and the mind take over, then the soul is dragged into birth after birth after birth after birth. So, we are in the process of strengthening our intelligence so that we can stop making bad decisions of where we allow the senses and the mind to roam. And again, this is the last 18, 19 verses of this chapter is on this topic. How to use the senses, how to control them in a way that gives us this peace and happiness that we're looking for. Right? And so the soul, it is pure. But why it's not acting in its pure state? Because it is covered by the false ego. Just like a diamond, when it's covered by mud, do we see a diamond? We just see mud. We don't see sparkle, we don't see brilliance, we don't see gem. But it's there, but it's hidden within the mud. So how to see that sparkle, how to see that brilliance? What do I have to do? Clean. So how do I clean the false ego off the soul? Get some Clorox wipes. Shaitamas Cheto Darpana Marjanam. To cleanse the mirror of the heart. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. One must chant the holy names of the Lord. This is what cleanses the covering of the soul. Okay? It's okay? Any other questions or comments?
In this verse we have seen yoga. So yoga, bhakti also yoga.
Yeah. So we have karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, buddhi yoga, bhakti yoga. So who has created all these yoga systems? Krishna. Anjali is a sub-creator. Krishna is the creator of all yoga systems. So he has given from chapter 3 through 6 all these yoga systems. And then he says at the end of chapter 6, Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddavan bhajate yomam same yuktataho mataha. He says, of all the yogis, he who with faith is united in me, in devotion, is highest of all. And from there, the next 6 chapters, 7 through 12, he speaks exclusively on the topic of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate platform of yoga. And the yoga systems are not like karma yoga will take me this way, jnana yoga will take me this way, bhakti yoga will take this way. No. They are steps on a ladder. Where does the first step take you on a ladder? No, but where does it take you on a ladder? First step, where does it take you? Next step. Where does that next step take you? And then, ultimately, to the top. So these yoga is called a ladder for a reason. That one progresses to the next, to the next, to the next. And two things happen as you go from karma yoga to jnana yoga to ashtanga yoga, buddhi yoga, bhakti yoga. Two things. One, your knowledge, your purification of the heart increases, and your understanding of Krishna increases. Ultimately up to Bhagavan realization, knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is the yoga process. Just like the purpose of third grade is what?
Fourth grade.
And the purpose of fourth grade is?
Going to fourth grade. Next level.
So the purpose of karma yoga is to become a master of karma yoga?
No, I have to elevate.
To come to jnana yoga. Purpose of jnana yoga is to ashtanga yoga. Purpose of ashtanga yoga?
Buddhi yoga.
And purpose of buddhi yoga is bhakti yoga. So this is the yoga process. But Krishna says, you don't need to go, in school we have to go third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade like this, step by step. But he says, no, you can come straight to bhakti. You don't have to go step by step. But whose decision is that?
Krishna's decision.
Ours to follow. Krishna's decision to give us the opportunity.
Yes.
But ultimately then we have to decide, what are we going to do? That the intelligent will know. Because Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktiya prayachati. That to do bhakti yoga, the highest of all yoga, what do you have to do? Krishna says, offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or water. He says, meaning you don't even offer multiple. Who is not qualified to even offer Krishna a glass of water? Anybody? He says, even if you are the most fallen, doesn't matter what your caste, what your race is, ethnicity, knowledge, wealth, fame, gender, intelligence, none of that matters. What matters? Yome bhaktya prayachati. Offer to me with love, Krishna says. Then I will accept it. So, that's the yoga process.
What is the difference between buddhi yoga and jnana yoga?
The level of realization. Buddhi yoga, one has understood the supreme in the form of in the realization of Paramatma, but not yet Bhagavan realization. So a bit technical definition. But more importantly is to understand what is Jnana Yoga. In Jnana Yoga, one has understood that I am spirit soul. So they detach from matter. But in Jnana Yoga, have not yet attached to anything. So they've detached from matter, but have not yet found the place of attachment. So it's an unstable position. Because we need some attachment. So if one doesn't progress in Jnana Yoga to come to know Krishna and attach to Krishna, one will fall back and attach to matter, material world. Because long term we cannot be detached. So Jnana Yoga is the knowledge that I am not matter, I am spirit soul. But I don't know yet where the soul came from. So that is why one must progress from Jnana Yoga further in order to come to the settled state of peace and happiness.
Thank you. I have one question. So, I don't know, many people does that, they go to a room and they close the door, they do the meditation, which comes under which they close the, they do the meditation.
Mental speculation? I don't know.
Peace and happiness.
You tell me. What is the only means for peace and happiness? Huh? How will the fish find peace and happiness? Through meditation? It must be connected back to water. How will we find peace and happiness?
Connect to Krishna consciousness.
No other way? Is there any other way?
No other way.
Absolutely no other way? Zero?
End of the day, that is what it is.
What about the beginning of the day?
We want.
Doesn't. There is none. There is no other means. That fish will not be happy with anything else you do besides put it back in the water. Our spirit soul, because it is part and parcel of Krishna. Our ananda doesn't come from ourselves, it comes from Krishna. So how will find happiness? All we'll find is dukkha. Yeah, it'll find some temporary happiness and then smashed. Temporary happiness, smashed. And how many times we have experienced that? So today I'll go into the room, close the door and do meditation. Then it won't work. Then next day I'll go and do something else. Third day I'll go do something else. And like this I'll continue for millions of lifetimes till I come to real knowledge. That's why Krishna says, Sarva Dharmam Parityaja. Sarva Dharma. All these varieties of life, you surrender. Give them up. And just Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Unto me alone, you surrender. Everything is taken care of. Ma Suchaha. Do not fear. It's black and white. Those processes will not help. They'll help maybe for some short amount of time, but it's not real help. Of course, doing yoga for the body is also very beneficial. But if I'm doing yoga for the body so that I can enjoy my senses, I'll just end in frustration. But if I'm doing yoga for the body so that I can use it in service to Krishna, so that the body is fit to render service, right? Last week we are doing service, physical labor. If I keep my body fit, I can do more service. Now doing yoga, the physical yoga, has value. Because my purpose is not that so I can enjoy my senses more prolifically, but so that I can use my body in the service of Krishna. Now this yoga has value. But if I'm doing this yoga to become the envy of my neighborhood, so everybody will say, oh, how great yogi is, no value. Understand? So this body is a vehicle. We have to maintain it. So caring for the body doesn't mean that sense enjoyment. It's what's the purpose for it. Ultimately, the why must be to please Krishna. Make sense?
Prabhuji, a question. In this verse which we just talked about, it says one has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of the servant of Krishna. So what does it really mean? Servant of servant.
Das and Das and Das and Das. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach this philosophy. Because Krishna says, he tells in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that when one worships me, I am very pleased. But when one serves my devotee, I am even more pleased. So Krishna becomes very pleased. Just like we have this experience ourselves, right? We are walking down the street with our child. Somebody gives us some compliment. We feel good. But somebody glorifies our child. How do we feel? More good. So Krishna says, yes, you glorify, I'm happy. But when you glorify and serve my devotee, that makes me even more happy. So to serve Krishna, what is the best means to serve Krishna? Serve the devotees of Krishna. This is most pleasing to Krishna. Most pleasing. Lord Shiva says the same thing to Parvati Devi. She asks, what's the best one can do? What's the best of all activities? And he says, to worship Lord Vishnu. But even greater than that is to worship and serve the devotee of the devotee. So all throughout Shastra, this is enjoined. So this is what it means to serve the servant of Krishna. Because we may not be able to know how to serve Krishna directly. But if we go through parampara, so we are studying this Bhagavad Gita by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. He is a pure devotee of Krishna. By reading this Bhagavad Gita, we are serving Srila Prabhupada. We are rendering service. And he becomes pleased. And thus our heart will become purified and illuminated. When we go to the temple and render service, who established that temple? Srila Prabhupada did. So when we go and render service, we may think we are doing some ordinary, cleaning some windows, organizing some shelves, washing some... No, you are doing direct service to the devotee of the devotee of Krishna. It is the most purifying activity. And that's the thing.
How reading book we are servicing to?
Huh?
By reading book, how we are doing service?
How? A good question. Srila Prabhupada endured extraordinary difficulty to produce these books. His schedule was like this. He would wake up at 4 a.m. He would take bath, attend on Mangalarti. Then he would go for a japa walk, come back, give Srimad Bhagavatam class. Then he would meet with different people, give different programs, manage different affairs, building a temple, different things. All until late into the evening. Then, 10 o'clock, about 9:30, he would go to his room. From 9:30 to about 10 o'clock, he would sing a lot of our Vaishnava bhajans and just, enjoy the bhajans of our acharyas. 10 o'clock, he would take sleep. Then he would wake up at what time? 12 o'clock. He would wake up at 12 o'clock. So 10 to 12 he would sleep. 12 o'clock he would wake up. And while everybody was sleeping, he would start to translate these books. And he would be translating the books, crafting the purports. And he would do this day after day after day. No matter where he was in the world, he would carry his dictaphone and all the Acharya's commentaries with him. And every day, doesn't matter jet lag, no jet lag, time zones, nothing, how heavy, he would do this. If you look at the volume of books Srila Prabhupada has written, no author in the history of the world has written so many books in their lifetime. He did in 12 years. All the while, establishing 108 temples around the world, circling the globe 14 times, initiating over 5,000 disciples. So when we read these books, Srila Prabhupada becomes very pleased because his efforts became fruitful. He labored intensely. Why? He knew everything already, not for his benefit, but for our benefit. So by studying Srila Prabhupada's books, it is very pleasing. And you know what is most pleasing to Srila Prabhupada? When we give this book to somebody else. Not our book. But we distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. Because this knowledge is what can truly give this peace and happiness. And it was the purpose of his whole mission. He left Vrindavan at the age of 70 to bring to us this recipe for success. So if we go out and share that recipe, it is carrying out his mission a little bit further. And thus it is the great service. So reading Srila Prabhupada's book is service, and distributing them is service. Nice question. Thank you. Any other questions?
How is inner consciousness mind and intellect is actually connected with respect to soul and the senses?
So, as we talked about in that example of the horses, the chariot, right? So, the mind and the intelligence are the two voices in our head.
Yeah.
Do and don't do. Right? Intelligence is the voice of reason. Mind is the source of all kinds of random ideas. When the senses see something, the desire comes into the mind. The mind will later pop up that desire. So the mind is a giant database, storage unit. It just holds all these desires. The intelligence is the decision maker to decide what to do, what not to do. Sometimes the intelligence, though, succumbs to the mind. And when the desire comes, intelligence is overpowered. But in a proper function, the intelligence has knowledge. This desire comes, that's bad for me. No, I'm not going to do it. This desire comes, yes, that's good, let's do it. So this is the mind and intelligence interplaying. And we have to strengthen our intelligence with knowledge. What is good for me, what is bad for me. Because my own intelligence says attaching to the fruits is good for me. But now my intelligence knows attaching to fruits is bad. So this is now I have strengthened my intelligence. It's okay?
And consciousness is part of this or?
Yeah, consciousness is the presence of the soul. Right? So consciousness means presence of the soul. This body has consciousness because there's a soul inside. This lampshade, it has no consciousness. It's matter. As soon as there's a presence of soul, there is consciousness. Right? But that consciousness is covered by the false ego. So the pure original consciousness that I am part and parcel of Krishna is covered. So we are in the process of uncovering what is already there. It is not something new we are developing. When you clean the mud off the diamond, you're not creating the diamond. The diamond is there, it's just covered. So similarly, this knowledge actually is all lying within our heart. Nothing we are discussing is new to us. It's just covered. So how to bring it out? With this knowledge, the conclusion of this knowledge should be take to the process of chanting. Because the conclusion here is that I need to surrender the fruits. How am I going to get faith in surrendering the fruits? I have to purify the heart. How am I going to purify the heart? Chant the holy names of the Lord. It's the only way. You can acquire all this knowledge for years and years to come. But if it doesn't translate into chanting of the holy names, the consciousness will not revive. The consciousness will not revive. That's why it is the Yuga Dharma. It is the activity of this age. In other yugas, there was a different process. Through yajna, through meditation, through archa vigraha, deity worship. But in this yuga, this is the way. And it's Harinam, Harinam, Harinam Evikale Kevalam Kalo Nashteva 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 Gatiranitha. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. But we're always searching. Not one other way? There is no other way. So this study should bring us to the point of chanting. And when we come to the point of chanting, it will bring then the application of these principles in our life. How to gain faith in surrendering the fruits? It's not going to be by reading this verse every day for the rest of our life. It is by the practice. And that practice is good chanting. Then we'll cleanse the mirror of the heart. Cleanse away that false ego. And the pure consciousness will emerge. It's okay? Yes?
By now, most of people knows that, or directly or indirectly knows
we have to do the work and not expect the result. But why and how we are falling into that trap again and again? How to overcome?
How we are falling into the trap. The material energy is very powerful. Maya Devi is illusion. The illusions to think this is the better path. Oh, go eat, drink, and be merry. This is the path of life. It's an illusion. So what to do? So Krishna says, Daivi Hesha Guna Mai Mama Maya Duratraya. He says this Daivi Hesha, this divine energy of mine, it is very difficult to overcome. So what to do? Mamiva ye prapadyante mayamitam tarantite. Just surrender unto me, and I will. And at once you'll overcome Maya. So how to stop become dragged back to the old ways? We have to hold on to Krishna. We have to hold on to Krishna. How to hold on to Krishna? Our daily chanting. Through good daily chanting, our sadhana will become strong to not become influenced by the illusory energy. I get asked this question all the time. Why do we have to chant 16 rounds? Right? Why 16? Because that is the dosage required to be able to adequately withstand the influence of Maya Devi and hold us from getting dragged back to our old ways. But 16 is the minimum, not the maximum. But we treat it as both, minimum and maximum. That's okay. At least start there. But that is how we can assure that we are protected. So by chanting, staying in association, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, A, B, C, D. Association, books, chanting, diet. You do these 4 things, A, B, C, D. You'll be protected. Association, books, chanting, diet, prasadam. You should only honor prasadam. You should not honor anything else. First, it must be offered to the Lord. He is giving us all this foodstuffs. So we should build our habit that we are only honoring prasadam. Then we'll be protected from getting dragged away again. Because you are right. We know this, we have it, but still we get pulled. Okay? Shall we chant? So let us take to this process of chanting. As I tell you, this chanting is not a Saturday evening activity. It is a lifestyle that you should develop in the greatest expediency. Do not delay in making this lifestyle habit of chanting the holy names. Because if we do, then we will find this perfection of life that we are looking for.